Hey everybody, welcome to episode 78 of the daily vlog series for the VR Game Rankings channel. And it, of course, is Wednesday, January 17th, and I do have a handful of news stories to get into, so let's go ahead and get it started. The first story of the day is TPcast 2.0 has been announced, and this new TPcast 2.0 is going to feature 1 millisecond of latency, supposedly, and support for up to 8K on VR headsets of the future. And so basically, TPcast has announced that there are 3 main features of this new TPcast 2.0. First of all, there is the ultra low latency codec. Now, this is a new codec that will compress the content, the VR content, on a 50-to-1 ratio, which will reduce the necessary bandwidth to allow for this 1 millisecond of latency. Another major feature of the new TPcast 2.0 is scalability. It will have support for the regular headsets that we have now, obviously 3K support. It'll have 4K support, and it will even have support up to 8K. It has wireless support. The third part of it, the third feature that it has, is it's going to have wireless support for short, mid, and long range solutions. So it can basically change its wireless mode on the fly in relation to whether or not you need it for short, mid, or long range wireless solutions. So it uses WiGig or 802.11ay for short range. It uses Wi-Fi or 802.11ax for mid range, and it uses Cloud VR, which they specify as 5G, 4.5G, FTTH for long range. So basically, these are the 3 major features that TPcast 2.0 is going to bring to the table. There is no info on when this might arrive, but this is relatively exciting news because we did, of course, hear about the HTC Vive wireless adapter, which is being brought to us by Intel. It is using the WiGig technology, which of course is the 802.11ay. And so this new wireless adapter is going to feature these multiple modes, and it's also going to feature this scalability and supposedly only 1 millisecond of latency. So what are my thoughts on this new TPcast, and maybe what are my thoughts on TPcast in general up to this point? So I've kind of said it repeatedly that when it comes to TPcast, I've decided to sit on the sidelines. My take with the whole thing is that, look, I'm going to let this thing come out. I'm going to let the regular individual people get their hands on that. And then what is going to happen is over a period of time, these regular people are going to put this TPcast through its paces. They're going to figure out the skinny basically on the situation. They're going to know the real deal on the situation. And this information is going to slowly leak out onto Reddit and other forums where people have their experiences. And so far that has happened with the initial batch of the TPcast. And I've heard enough negative issues about it here and there that lend me to the idea that it's a good idea for me to stay away from it right now. Now, I will not discount the fact that there are definitely gamers out there that have a TPcast and they are having an absolute blast with it. They are dealing with some of the minor shortcomings. It's not that big of a deal. They're dealing with it and they have this wireless freedom and they're having an incredible time with no wires, and that is awesome. So I'm not saying the TPcast is a complete and utter dud. What I'm saying is there are enough of these situations, that enough complaints that I hear about from various TPcast owners, complaints of it malfunctioning, not working, just different various issues, that I've decided to sidestep it. And so with this TPcast 2.0, I think my take is going to be basically the same thing. Now, here's the good news. The good news is this company, if they keep working on this product, they are eventually going to deal with all of the issues and they're eventually going to work it out. So it's a good thing that we are moving on to generation 2 of TPcast. Now, I don't know that they are going to figure out everything for generation 2. I don't know that I'm jumping in with generation 2, but it's a good thing. They're going to learn more and more. And maybe by the time we eventually to get to generation 3 of the TPcast, maybe a lot of these issues will be ironed out. Maybe the prices will come down a little bit, and then maybe that's something that I can jump on board. So right now I'm kind of cautiously optimistic, basically, when it comes to the TPcast, and I will let everybody else go ahead and be the beta testers for now. So that is my take on this new TPcast. Okay, story number 2, Sprint Vector. The closed beta for Sprint Vector is going to launch on January 19th. The closed beta is going to begin this Friday, so that is relatively exciting for anybody that was looking to possibly get in and get a chance to try Sprint Vector. Now, I should have had this story yesterday, because yesterday was actually the final day to try to submit and get into this closed beta. And apparently Survios will be contacting you via the email that you used to try to get into the closed beta to let you know if you got in or not. Now, Sprint Vector for me is an interesting game because I don't really know what to think about this game. I've seen the videos of it. I've seen screenshots of it. It does look interesting. I've always said, I'm a big fan of To the Top. I liked Climby, what I played of it, and I don't know exactly how Sprint Vector fits in with something like Climby or something like To the Top. I don't know how much platforming it is. It seems to be more on the race side, but I absolutely would love to get into this open beta and get a try for it because I have a completely open mind about it. I don't know what to think about this. I'm not excited and hyped for it, but I'm not totally ignoring it either. I know what Survios has done with raw data. This is a very talented developer, and so hopefully I can get into this closed beta and maybe give some more takes on it. I'm not sure if we're allowed to speak on it in the closed beta in terms of our experiences and stuff, so I'll have to figure out how all of that works, but hopefully I do get into this closed beta and I can try it out, and hopefully I'll be able to relay to you guys what I think about Sprint Vector. Okay, so that is going to begin, of course, on Friday, the closed beta. Story number 3, Arctica 1 has a brand new update that has been pushed through. Now, what is this new update going to bring? Well, this new patch fixes a number of bugs that are in the game, and it also provides German, French, and Spanish language support. So that has been added, which is a nice bonus. But the biggest feature that is being added with this patch is a profile manager, a save profile manager, so that you can actually have individual save profiles so that other people can try out the game. For example, you're in Arctica 1, maybe you're 3/4 of the way through the game. A buddy comes over, you want to give him a demonstration of the power of VR. You want to show him this Michael Bay in VR experience that we like to call Arctica 1, but at the same time, you're like, man, I got to put this guy into my game where I'm 3/4 of the way through the game. What if when he's playing it, he gets farther through the game, he ends up touching pieces of the story I haven't even got to? It kind of ruins the situation, and there aren't any other profiles that you can go into, so you can't send him back to the beginning of the game in his own profile. Well, this patch is going to change that. Now you are going to have multiple save profiles, and so what this patch does is your existing saved game will automatically turn into profile 1, but you will have other available profiles. So if you want to pop somebody into Arctica 1, give them a quick taste of this experience, you'll be able to do that by selecting an additional profile. And it's kind of crazy to me that so many VR games seem to have this problem. Off the top of my head, I can't think of all the different VR games that do suffer from this, but I know there are quite a few. There are quite a few VR games where you start the game up, it just automatically goes into your game. There's no selection of any particular profile. The one good thing about PlayStation VR is they've sidestepped this quite a bit. In a lot of PlayStation VR games, before you even start the game, you select which profile it is, and it loads into that version of the game. So you could easily have multiple profiles. And PSVR, the reason that you see this in a lot more PSVR games is because it is more of a living room type console. It's something that the whole family is expected to enjoy. So you might have your own profile. Your son might have their own profile. Your wife or girlfriend could have a profile, or whatever it may be, boyfriend, whatever. And so everybody could have their own profile. You just sign into that profile and it has your saved game there. But in PC VR, it doesn't seem like we're doing a very good job of this. And I think part of the problem is in the early days of VR, we pretty much expect that this product is going to be purchased by one primary person that has a gaming PC, and it's kind of this isolated experience. And so they're not really thinking that you're going to have other people in your house that want to try this. But these VR developers, they need to understand, look, we have kids, we have family members, we have friends. Sometimes we have gatherings where a bunch of people come over. We want to give them a sample of some of these games, but we need to have these extra profiles to be able to put people into games. Another thing I think VR developers might want to consider, this would be a great idea, is if they have a demo mode for the game where basically what it does, not that they're creating a separate demo for the game, but if they had a profile that you could pop someone into if they're just getting a quick sampler. So maybe it takes them past all the tutorial stuff and kind of just jumps them right into an early part of the game where they can get a feel for the game. That would be an ideal situation for demonstration purposes. And demonstrating VR is absolutely key, because the only way that we're really going to spread the good news that VR is bringing is by putting more and more people into it and giving them these firsthand experiences. So I think that would be a good idea. But this Article 1 update, it is a good step in that direction. Hopefully many more developers will understand this same issue and start providing us with additional save profiles. We really need that. Okay, story number 4. The physical version of Doom VFR for the PlayStation VR is on sale for only $19.99. I've noticed at GameStop it is $19.99, and also at Amazon.com it is $19.99. So you can grab the physical copy of Doom VFR for a pretty decent price here. Now, of course, we need to remember that the standard price of Doom VFR is $29.99. This is not a $39 game or a $40 or $50, $60 game. This is a $29.99 game normally, so it's really only a $10 discount, but I don't know what it is. There's something about that $19.99 price that makes you think, wow, this is like a fire sale. And I'm slightly tempted, personally, myself, to go ahead and pick this game up for my PlayStation VR, even though I actually own the Steam VR version of this game. Yeah, I've played the Steam VR version of Doom VFR a little bit here and a little bit there. The bottom line is I need a PC upgrade before I'm going to play this game anymore. I'm not going to refund it. In fact, I think I've already played it past the refund point anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold on to the game. And I'm just kind of waiting until I get a new graphics card or maybe an entire PC upgrade, and then go into Doom VFR. There's a handful of VR games that just don't want to run on my rig, and Doom VFR is one of them. Now, I could go ahead and grab the PSVR version of this game, and I could play that, and it is very tempting at this $19.99 price. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it or not, but it is certainly tempting. So if you are a PlayStation VR owner and you haven't picked this game up yet, this is definitely a great opportunity to grab it on a better deal. Alrighty, another story that we have is Primordian is a new game that is coming from Stone Punk Studios, And this game is going to be arriving on the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift later this week. Now, of course, it is Wednesday, January 17th, so it's possible. I mean, what does later this week mean? It could mean tomorrow on Thursday. It could mean Friday, maybe even Saturday, but Primordian is going to be coming out very soon. Now, this is definitely an early access type game. And the thing about early access is we've seen different varying levels of early access. Sometimes we get games in early access that seem like they're relatively a complete game, and they're coming out in early access because the developer hopes to add additional things here and additional things there, but the game can relatively stand up on its own 2 feet, although it's technically early access. We've seen those types of games. But we've also seen early access games that are extremely early, like very bare bones, and they're kind of going more with this idea that if you're going to jump aboard these games, you're jumping aboard them with the knowledge that the game is barely there and it's going to start showing up slowly over time, and that you get to experience this game as it moves through its development, and you have to have an understanding that you're not getting a finalized locked-in version. So there's kind of these different versions of early access when we really think about it. And Primordian is more on the early access side of the coin, because what I understand is this early access version will feature about 2 hours of gameplay. So definitely one of the more early access games that we're going to be talking about here. Now, I tried a build of this game last year. It might have been like October or so of last year, maybe September of last year. I tried an early build of this game. The developer Stonepunk Studios hooked me up with a preview build, and I was pretty impressed with it. Now, there wasn't a lot to it, but what I was impressed with it by is just this alien jungle that it puts you in, the environment. I really like the environment. It kind of reminds me of the movie Avatar. You know, you're like on this strange planet, you're in this strange jungle. I kind of got a little bit of a Halo 3 vibe too. You know, at the very beginning of Halo 3, when you're kind of like in this jungle, I got a little bit of that vibe, but it's a little bit more of an alien planet with very interesting enemies that kind of jump out and animate in some crazy ways. But the build that I tried last year, it was a very early build, and it was definitely one of these things where it showed a lot of promise, but it was very much early in its development, and I couldn't really make any kind of definitive take on the game at that point. And so we're about to get this early access version. Now, I understand there are more updated builds of this game. I have not been able to try this recently. I tried to go into it again to see if I could get an updated build, and the game didn't activate for me, so I wasn't able to try it. But this is going to hit early access later this week, and it does look interesting. But definitely caution if you are the type of gamer that buys some of these early access games and you feel like you're getting screwed over because it's barely a game, then this one is probably not for you. This is for a different type of gamer that is willing to let the game slowly grow and for them to see it grow and mature at the same time as the developer continues to work on it. So that's kind of what we're getting with Primordian, but it does have a really cool jungle environment, a really cool vibe to the game that is kind of Predator, kind of Avatar, kind of a little bit of Halo 3 in the jungle at the beginning of it. It definitely has an interesting vibe to it, so we're looking forward to that a little bit later this week. Okay, and then the final story that I have for you guys today on this episode is Sony has recently registered for a patent for a new generation VR controller, what looks to be a new version of the PlayStation Move. Now, all we have right now are basically these patent drawings, and it's hard to get a clear-cut idea of what is going on with this particular controller, but there are a number of things that jump out to us immediately. First of all, number one, there is no large light ball anywhere on this controller. And this is incredibly exciting news, because if they go away from this idea of optical light tracking, then we can get a completely new tracking system that is hopefully much more robust than the optical light tracking solution that they're using right now. So there is no giant light ball on the end of it, and that is incredibly good news. Now, the downside of that is anybody out there that might be hoping that Sony is going to bring out this controller for the current version of PlayStation VR, that probably is not going to happen, because what would be the tracking? How is it going to be tracked if it's not using this light ball type of tracking? So this is probably looking like something that might be introduced with PSVR 2, and it could have a completely new tracking design, which is something we're very much looking forward to. Now, what else have we seen by looking at the patent drawings for this controller? Well, another thing that we're seeing is we are seeing buttons all over the place. There seems to be a ton of various buttons that you can select on this controller. There is, of course, the thumbstick that everybody has been dreaming about. So the thumbstick is there, so we no longer have to worry about the thumbstick. There is a trigger for, of course, all the shooting games and the different things that you're going to do there. But there are some interesting design choices that make it somewhat similar to both an Oculus Touch and to Valve's Knuckles. In fact, there was a thread on the HTC Vive subreddit that got pretty popular earlier this week, where people were saying, hey, it looks like Sony is going to beat Valve to market with a Knuckles-like controller. Now, that's pretty much hyperbole there, because this is not going to beat Knuckles to market, most likely, even though we do know about Valve Time. This is a patent. There's no guarantee that this is ever going to materialize, but it does seem to share some unique qualities to both Knuckles and Touch. For example, when you grab this controller, your fingers are going to rest on the controller in a very specific way, and it appears that this controller has sensors for where your fingers naturally rest. So if you pull your finger off one of those sensors, it's going to be able to recognize that, and it's going to be able to show that off in game experiences, much in the same way with the Oculus Touch. How you can do the finger pointing, you can do the thumbs up gesture, because it knows that you've taken your finger off of this sensor, and it has that ability. And then the same thing with Knuckles. It does have a wrap around your hand where you're going to hold it in a certain way, where some people think that it's possible you're going to be able to completely let go of this controller, and so it'll have that same functionality of you're holding on to a sword, you completely let go of the sword, now you're no longer holding on to the sword or a baseball bat or a tennis racket or whatever it happens to be portraying within the game. Now, one of the concerns that I have with the patent drawings that we've seen is that this wrap that is going around your hand doesn't look very secure in any way, shape, or form. It seems like if you let go of that controller, as long as your hand is upwards like this or like this, you're fine. But what if your hand is pointing down? It seems like it would fall right off your hand. So I'm not sure about this strap that wraps around your hand. It doesn't look as Knuckles-like as you might think, because the Knuckles, when you put that on, it seems like you're almost tightening it, and it's kind of locked onto your hand, and you can kind of swing your hand like this, and Knuckles is going to stay there. Where if you look at this patent drawing, it seems like if you did that with this new Sony controller, the thing would fly right out of your hand. Now, part of that could be just in the fact that the patent drawings are just that. They're just patent drawings, and they're not completely detailed, and they don't reveal everything. So we're not too sure about that. All of this stuff is in Japanese, by the way, so it's hard to get a take on a lot of this stuff as well. And then the other thing that some people have talked about, looking closer at these patent designs and what's talked about, is that there appears to be a lot of different versions of Rumble that are built into this new controller. It seems like Sony is going above and beyond the Call of Duty to try to add a lot of different versions of Rumble simultaneously to give us a lot more intricate feedback. Now, we know, of course, with the Nintendo Switch, they like to advertise HD rumble. So it's possible that this new controller that Sony is bringing out, they're kind of going with their own version of HD rumble, because we know how important it is in VR experiences to get that feedback. It really draws you into the game. So hopefully this will have much improved rumble. Again, I don't believe this is a product that is coming anytime soon. I believe that if this does ever come, there's no guarantee whatsoever. We could go down a long line of different patent designs that have never come to fruition. So we don't want to get too caught up into this. But if this product does ever come, I really believe it's coming to PlayStation VR 2, which is going to use a completely new tracking system. I personally believe it's coming November 2019 is when I'm looking for PlayStation VR 2 and PlayStation 5. That's my prediction. And so this looks like it could be the first sign of a new controller, which we desperately need for PlayStation VR. Alrighty, folks, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. This has been episode 78 of the Daily Vlog series for Wednesday, January 17th. Oh, I do have some show notes. Tomorrow's show, Thursday's show, is probably going to be 3 to 4 hours later than normal. I have some appointments that I have to deal with tomorrow, and I'm going to be delayed by about 3 or 4 hours. So if you normally try to wait late in the evening for the show to get posted, if you're on the East Coast and you wait until like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock p.m. at night to try to wait for this show, you might not want to wait for Thursday's show, because it is going to be delayed probably by 3 to 4 hours. So just want to let you guys know on that. But basically that's it. I will see everybody on Thursday. Take it easy. Later.